spiritual food for thought.
Welcome back. This time I'm going to be contrasting our spiritual life with our physical life a little bit and showing that unfortunately a lot of people within the realm of modern Christianity seem to put a much greater emphasis on their physical life than their spiritual life. Now I do know that we're mortal creatures. I do know that we're going to die one day, and we should take care of our physical bodies that we can get the most use out of them while we are here. However, we know that it's almost better for us to be dead, because then when we awake, there'll be no more pain, no more suffering, no more sorrow. It'll be better. So we're going to take something that Jesus once told his disciples. We're going to put it in context. We're going to look at some other things that are said, and then we're going to compare it to what the modern church often does. Now, the subject that I'm going to use as an example here is fasting. Now, I'm not going to tell you my 13 great tips to fast like a star, fast like Jesus, or how to make your life better by fasting, that type of thing. I'm just using it as an example. So there was somebody possessed with demons. The disciples could not cast it out. In Mark chapter 9:28, Jesus did. And when he was come into the house, his disciples asked him privately, "Why could we not cast him out?" And he said unto them, "This kind cannot come forth by nothing, but by prayer and fasting." So here we see two things are coupled together, prayer and fasting. And we see that the context is casting out demons. Now, a lot of people in the modern church are not casting out demons. They're just not. It's not the purpose of this talk. But if we think about that for a moment, we do see prayer combined with fasting often throughout Scripture. And we do see a focus put on it. In this particular situation, Jesus said that this type of demon could not come out of somebody but by prayer and fasting, which makes us consider, are there other things in life that are kind of spiritual roadblocks or spiritual strongholds that may only be able to come down by prayer and fasting? It's at least worth considering. Now, I'm not saying that we go out there like Pharisees who fast often, or who will sit there and say, "Oh, thank you for not making me like this, man. I fast twice a week," things like that. But let's consider something else before we move forward. In 1 Corinthians, Paul's talking about marriage a bit in chapter 7. He's talking about appropriate times for a man and woman to come together. And in 1 Corinthians chapter 7, verse 5, he reveals, "Defraud ye not one another, except it be with consent for a time, that ye may give yourselves to fasting and prayer. And come together again, that Satan tempt you not for your incontinency." So here we see that part of fasting in his mind would be to take a break from certain things that are supposed to happen within the realm of a marriage as well. And he combines the two together again, a time of fasting and prayer. So we should have a prayer life within modern Christianity, within our Christian walks, within our relationship with the Father through the Son, and trying to live a sanctified, set apart, spiritual life down here in this fallen, cursed, wicked earth. We should have a prayer life. We should be seeking the Father and his help and his power and his guidance and his counsel as we move forward each day with all sorts of situations. To focus more on prayer and to emphasize things sometimes, fasting is often combined with it. Now, a lot of Christians probably don't pray as much as they think they should or as much as they would want to. Things get in the way, we get distracted, myself included. A lot of Christians probably don't combine fasting and prayer. I used to a lot more, but these days, not so much. So part of why I'm sharing this is kind of a refresher for myself, but also to encourage others. And one thing that I'd like you to consider is how many people, if you, any given Sunday, any given time there's a meeting at a church, if you ask the people who here has fasted in the past week or the past year, some hands would go up. But what you'd see, I'm guessing, I'm suspecting, think for yourself, is that you'd find a lot of older Christians raising their hands, and they would say that they had fasted within the past year. If you ask them then why they fasted, they would say, "Oh, colonoscopy. That, I fasted to make sure I didn't have cancer, or so I could get, something scoped out and checked out." So the reason that they would have said they fasted was for a physical reason. People will fast on a doctor's orders, okay? Not on Jesus's commands, recommendations, guidance, whatever we want to call it. They won't do it just because Jesus said, but if a doctor does, then they're going to. So if their spiritual life is in, shambles, if it's not where it should be, if it's in danger, it's not quite as great of a focus than if their physical life could potentially be at risk. So again, I use this as one simple example. There are times in the New Testament where it talks about fasting as well. There are certain things potentially within the spiritual realm, within our spiritual walk, that may be certain types of strongholds that will only come down by fasting and prayer. Personally, I get distracted a lot when I pray. However, when I would actually fast and pray and take a day or two off of food and water, that constant feeling within me, that constant kind of aching and longing of my body for its physical needs, reminded me that I was taking that time off to focus on my spiritual needs. And I had a constant reminder to be very focused on my spiritual needs and my spiritual walk and my prayer life at that time, that it was much easier to spend some time in deep prayer for me. I don't know other people's experiences. I'm just sharing that for myself, from what I've experienced. But perhaps rather than just taking a day every year or two and fasting to make sure that our body's okay because the doctor told us to, maybe we should choose to consider what's revealed. Consider what the Messiah said. And spend some time in fasting and prayer. Just some food for thought. Be blessed. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe.